Hello, and welcome back to the ministry. And this may be the final part. Ooh, but it could be two parts. I'm gonna be honest with you because I got a lot of content here that I want to unpack as we go through these last little scenes of this film. So we're on the last part of The Perfect Match. I let y'all sit yesterday on the fact of the lust. She told him very last, maybe that wasn't love, that was lust. Which brings me to the point that I wanted to bring up. Some of these men for years have been thinking that the sex was love with these particular people and what they've been having sex with. Some of them have had long-term sexual relationships with these other people that they were with. And because they were having long-term sexual relationships with, they thought that was love. That person wasn't thinking about them past that moment. I heard Anointed Fire did a beautiful teaching, and I actually did, I don't know whether it was an hour or 45-minute podcast where I mentioned this, that some women will come into a person's life and they have no interest in that person, none whatsoever. The only interest in which they have is to connect to them, but they will remove themselves emotionally from the individual. So now I'm going to actually be talking about the juxtaposition of the Jezebel spirit between a woman and a man. I was trying to touch on this, but for some reason I was spiritually blocked on getting the point that I wanted to talk about, because I remember this past summer, Shannon Yvette and that football player named Barnett did a therapy session, Jesus in Therapy session, where they were talking about how the Jezebel spirit appears in women and in men. What it will do with women is it will sometimes appear as a docile, victim-minded person that operates in control. And Michael Todd was talking about this in his Sunday service when he was talking about contamination, which speaks of a woman that does not speak but says a whole lot with saying nothing. Okay? So when a woman understands how to control with her actions and her body language, she don't have to say much in order to control the scenario. She just needs to pinpoint what the pain points are. And she discerns the pain points, and she uses those pain points to her advantage. The guy may actually think that the woman cares about him, but all she did was dissect directly to the pain point and got that because she already had his body. Once she got his body, she just hit the pain point. This is your pain point. And now you think I'm in love with you. She didn't care nor hear past the point of what he said. She just dissected the pain point. We went over this. That's what the female Jezebel will do. And she also understands servitude. Some of us Christian women do not understand servitude, but the Jezebel understands servitude. Sometimes her servitude is either sexual, All she has to do is figure out what his love language is. Mm, mm. Once she's discerned that, she can block him from getting to her because it's not her love language. But all she got to do is, if I do this, it's the same thing you see a narcissist do. It's a narcissist. All she is really a narcissist. That she understands. I think I'm going to do a completely different word on this, and I might do that immediately after this. I found a channel the other day. Remember, I was talking about a few videos back, it was a few movies back, when I was doing a review on, it was either Enchanted or Cinderella, but I think it was Enchanted because it was more recent. But I mentioned the scene from Family Matters. I found a whole channel from a Christian woman that did a review on the psychotherapy of Laura, Steve, and Stefan. I was lit. I was like, what? Oh my God. And the psychology of the narcissistic personality that Stefan had and Steve's kind heart. I was like, oh my God, what? That's a whole other thing. I ain't gonna get into that right now, because if I get into that, I'm gonna make that a whole nother word. Now, so when it comes down to the female, if you recall, I did a word a while back where I talked about the psychology of what happens when you're in childhood. We go through a process of survival, okay? When our security is threatened, when our living situation is threatened, when our personal body is threatened, and it's a fourth one I can't think of off the top of my head. But when these elements are threatened, it may be financial, it may be the roof over your head, whatever it is. When these elements are threatened, we go into automatic survival mode. If you had a parent that did this, meaning they always threatened one of these 3 to 4 areas, you usually grew up to become I ain't never gonna let nobody do that to me again person. Which turns out I can do it all bad by myself person. In a female, it turns into this woman that we saw in this film. I'm not going to connect my heart to nobody, but I'm going to be able to step back, observe, discern, figure you out, give you just enough of what you need, but I ain't giving you me. You can't have me. I will serve you at a distance. I will determine your pain points. I will give you all the sex that you want, but you cannot have me. Now, what this does to a person that is in conjuncture, a actual person that is a caring person, because this can work in the opposite format. When the person did not feel love and security growing up, they're seeking it. And because they are a seeker of it, a narcissist automatically is drawn to it. Because a narcissist is looking for someone that operates through insecurity, rejection, arrogance, manipulation, pride, and control. Okay? And if they see a target, meaning a person, this man in this movie played the character of what? He played a influential PR agent who had resources. and influence. Women were drawn to him because he had a level of respect, money, and community fame. Okay? So because of that, this is how women would be drawn to him. Okay? He was operating in a Jezebelic spirit. Or shall I say, he was operating in a Jezebelic spirit, and I'm going to get to that. But he was a target for a Jezebelic spirit because of the fact of his positioning. Now, with that being said, when this occurred and they broke up like this, he went back to his job. He got pissed off. He was mad. He didn't want to really deal with it. He came in 20 minutes late for his meeting the next day and was like, whatever. And they're like, oh, we're glad you showed up. And he said, you know what? They're like, what is it that you need? And he was like, I just need you to sign these papers and present them to our celebrity client. And he was like, you called a meeting for this? It's like, yeah, we need you. Pretty much they needed him to finesse the person. And it's like, he's like, okay, whatever. He was in that mood that day that he ain't even care. Now, this particular day, ironically, and I think I'm going to use this as a point, it was his birthday. Because his friends came over that night to celebrate his birthday, and they were all in his apartment his house when he got home. He looked like he had been working all day, and he was partially drunk. So he was at a point that he was like, whatever, to all y'all. It was his birthday. He was now coming to a point of evolution of self that he was being birthed into his next season. Some of you God ordained spouses are in a phase where they are being birthed into their next season. Some of them have already went through, the epiphany effect, where they've gone through their life epiphany, that they have broken off that element where they said, I'm done with X, Y, and Z, and are starting to make the moves to cut off everything that does not fit the evolution of who they are. So let me now start to talk about the male Jezebelic spirit. He has evolved. Because he has made the decision to evolve, he no longer wants to serve the self that he once was. As he's evolving, some of us, and I'm going to say this to y'all, people that have been waiting for your kingdom spouse. A lot of us have been in that phase. God, when are you going to bring my God ordained spouse? God, you're saying that we're supposed to get married. God, things are about to happen. God, you said this. God, you said this. God, you said this. And you can see from a distance, because the Lord has given you wisdom and the eyes to see, that your God ordained spouse is doing whatever it is that he's doing. Whether he's giving you social media view, whether he's whatever it is. You can see. You've been observing. You can see it if the Lord has shown you who your spouse is. Some of y'all, you may live in the same community as your God ordained spouse. Some of y'all, they got status. Some of them may not have status, but you have access to them, and they have a high ranking status in the community, have a high ranking status at your job, have high ranking stat, whatever it is. And you can see them, and you're like, well, God, you said, and why not? And God's like, shh, I know what I'm doing. Some of y'all, and Elise said this several months back, he was telling it, and I've seen a lot of people do this. Elise did it, Megan did it, a lot of them have done this. They've been saying, God has put the God ordained spouses into a season of isolation, and they can see you. They can see you clear as day. And God said, because they can see you in this season, they're in a birthing season, and because they've been birthed into their new elevation where they will be able to come find you, but they cannot do it until God says so, God's been saying, no, don't interact, don't act like you care, don't do anything at all to give this man any inkling that you're still interested. Because they've been watching you like a hawk. They've been like, what happened to the nice messages? What happened to the this? What happened to the that? I'm not even spiritually feeling them anymore. Are they still even interested? We interested. God just got a spiritual block on us. Because it's like, you cannot interact. Don't send songs. Don't send feelings. Don't send Nope. I need him in isolation. I need him to work through these emotions. And if he thinks he's getting coddled by you, he's not going to work through them. Because that's what we do. We want to send the songs. We spiritually want to connect in whatever way in which possible to make them feel good. We're that person that wants to be the encourager. Let me just rub you back. Let me make you feel better. Because we're the encouraging servitude wives that are like, I'm gonna make you feel better. And God's like, no, I don't want them to feel better. I need them to feel all of the pain that they need to feel right now, because if they don't feel it, think about it like this. When a woman is giving birth, she can't avoid the pain of the birthing. Even with the epidural, it still hurt. We were talking about the toxicity yesterday. I mentioned the fact that sometimes these men, if you push them to the edge of their emotions by asking them too many questions, pinpointing their direct pain points, isolating their things that they did not want to deal with, it brings to the surface stuff that they don't want to deal with. This is what God is doing with these men. This is what's happening with this character. He's been brought to the surface of all the things that he's been avoiding. So when his friends come that night, he sees them in his apartment and he starts calling out their boo. Yep. He starts to call out all their stuff. One by one by one by one. Not because he's angry at them. It's because he's projecting. He's angry. He's dealing with his emotions and he's projecting it upon them. And they like, whatever, and leave out. And they say, because he started calling out everything. And this is the second time I thought about this, so that means I might need to do that movie too. Why did I get married? Yeah. So we might end up doing Why Did I Get Married at some point. It's going to be another couple of things because I'm supposed to do God Gave Me, Marry Me. We're going to do that. And then we'll do Why Did I Get Married? But, anyway, the fact of the matter is the calling out. Some of these men are projecting because they are now seeing their landscape that they have so thoroughly protected all this time starting to crumble. God will pull down your idols. God will show you and give you recognition to your condemnation, self-condemnation, and your, contamination. Every area in which you are contaminated. Because what God will do is he will shake it up to such a degree that he will start to highlight the problems. Most people, they are so subtly disaffected or uninfected by their environment that when the Lord shakes it up and God gives you spiritual awareness to to the environment around you is no longer serving you, you now see like somebody took, like when you see crime scene investigators, they put a blue light over blood spatters. That's what the Lord does. The Lord spiritually is highlighting every bloody spatter in your life. And he's saying, that's a mess, 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 that's a mess. And you're like, I thought it was clean in here. What you mean? You're telling me that's dirty and they dirty and that's dirty and that's dirty and that's dirty? And what? I thought he highlights it. It's like, now you can choose to get rid of it or you can keep it. I'm God, but you have the right to make your own decisions. What do you want to do? Are you going to clean it? And that's going to make an effect on what happens next, depending on how well you clean it. You understand what I'm saying? Are you willing to clean it? There's something that I have not told you guys that I've been going through that I am getting permission to say. I mentioned it slightly in one of my other videos. I've been having these dreams that have been making me feel slightly condemned. And I'm like, wait, what's going on here? You have to come to the realization when you're at the midst of a breakthrough, it's a scripture. And I'm going to get a little more into this when I get into graduation. When you are coming into a graduation point, this man's coming into a birthing point, that everything's going to come up. You remember the scripture that states that the wheat and the tares were put together. For when the Lord sowed the wheat, the enemy came in and sowed tares. As we are coming into our new, you're going to sense condemnation and you're going to sense contamination. The contamination is the enemy, but what the enemy is going to do is project condemnation over you. Okay? In order to make you feel intimidated enough that you'll back away from the thing that God's trying to openly give you through popping up things from your past. Oh, you remember that? You remember that? You remember him? You remember that location? You remember this? You remember this? Remember when you were doing that? Remember when you used to manipulate people? Remember when you used to this? You remember when you used to do that? You remember you used to do this? Remember when you used to do that? And you're like, you got to be like, wait, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that no more. I haven't done that in over 15 years. No, I haven't done that anymore. No, I'm not into that. I haven't drank anymore. I haven't smoked anymore. I never was a smoker. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't never smoke. I always was around people that did smoke though. I got contact high like twice. But, yeah, it's like all of those types of things, the enemy's going to start throwing at you, but he's going to do it through projection. Projection is one of the most dangerous things because it's an element of confusion where it's like the enemy is putting you in an alligator roll. And he's spinning you around and he's spinning you around and he's spinning you around with confusion because he's not allowing you to get to certain places because he's throwing up past issues. Oh, you remember your ex? Oh, you remember in your high school? Oh, remember this? Oh, remember when you did that? Oh, remember when you took that? Oh, remember when you did this? And he's throwing this stuff up, alligator roll, and then he's sitting up there, okay, now that I've gotten you confused right now, let me throw condemnation at you. And I say, why do you think that the Lord's going to allow you to get this blessing and this blessing and this blessing? Because remember him? Why would he allow you to get a husband if you were doing that with that person? Why are you see what I'm saying? But it's the condemnation. If you are praying, and I've been praying for certain people, and when I tell you what the enemy has been doing to me, has been coming at me with a level of condemnation to try to make me feel like I am the one that has been filled with, what's the other word that I just said? Uh, Contamination. And I'm always sitting with the Lord and saying, Lord, if I'm contaminated, please let me know. If I have contamination, please give me clarity. If I have contamination, please let me see. Why do I bring this up? Because this man is going through this. He's coming to the realization that he's facing himself. He's facing the parts in him that he's realizing where his walls were. He's then also coming to the understanding of the Jezebel spirit that was operating in him, how he was operating in pride and protecting himself from relationships, how he was acting insecure, the level of rejection that he received from this woman. He had arrogance in how he didn't want to attach himself to people and all this kind of stuff. He was understanding the manipulating parts of himself. He was understanding the fact that he needed to be in control, and he had lost his level of control. And that is what was his major breakthrough. He was able to recognize, I don't have control of this situation. And he felt like a victim, and he did not like that. Because of the fact that he was the one used to being the one in control in all of the situation, and this woman took his control away. And not only did she take his control away, she made him feel broken. Because he needed to be broken in order to fully heal from all of the pain, all of the hurt, all of the things in which he was dealing with. He needed healing. But he did not understand that. He makes the decision to go to his job, and they're having the meeting to sign the client, the celebrity client, and he blows up the whole spot. He tells his boss, no, I can't agree with this contract. He tells the celebrity, don't sign it. They had a better deal for you, but because this company wants to use you, they prefer you to sign this contract instead of with the celebrity client that wanted to partner with you for this tour. So you know what? I'm telling. And they're like, you know that you broke a client confidentiality agreement of an NDA, you're going to be fired. And he was like, Neil, he tells his boss, Neil, that's exactly what I wanted. What it is your God ordained spouse had to literally go through a season where he came into recognition. Stephanie P said this. She said that your God ordained spouse was shown you a long time ago. Remember in the beginning of this film, the woman that was shown to this man. She was sitting at the table the whole daggone time, but nobody was paying her no attention. Even in watching the scene, she was forgettable. This is how well this woman was placed in. She was forgettable. I mentioned that for a reason. Your God ordained spouse saw you. But he had to get to a point where he came to the recognition, wait, you saying that this is the person? And when God shows you, like, yeah, you want that? Now do you want that? Okay, maybe you don't even realize that you want that. But I'm about to break down every wall before I can give you that for real. You've been waiting for the walls to come down because your God ordained spouse was under an iceberg and he had to be broken out of his icebox in order for him to be able to feel again, emotionally connect again, all of this kind of stuff. Because you could have got him before, but if you got him before the Lord broke him all the way down, I mean all the way down, and showed him himself, showed him all of his pains, his hurts, his issues, his things, the fact that he needed to come to the altar and come to the Lord, and all of these types of things. It was the only way that he was going to get to him or to you is through him. Stephanie P released a word yesterday where she was saying, for some of y'all, your God-ordained spouse is going to come to this come to himself moment that he's going to take himself to the church and get baptized. I remember I was watching Jennifer Hudson several weeks ago, and she was talking about her marriage. She was talking about Viola Davis. Now, Viola Davis had come and do an interview with her, and Viola Davis was talking about how when she wanted to marry her husband, she came to the Lord and asked the Lord, well, I don't want to get married, but I don't want to have to sit here and go through the dating process and da-da-da-da-da. Sound like us, don't it? And the Lord showed her who her husband was. And I believe their first date was him taking her to church, and she went up on the altar, gave her life to God, and got baptized. Some of y'all God-ordained spouses had to do a come to themselves moment and get baptized. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. Baptized before the Lord, come into the understanding of God, and come into the understanding of themselves. So, lo and behold, we at the end of this part, and I'm going to have to come back to finish it. So we're going to be on a part 2 of part 4 coming at you next.